Showman.
Once upon a time in a small, quirky town, there lived a man known far and wide as Showman. Now, Showman wasn't your typical cobbler. No, he was a self-proclaimed shoe whisperer. He believed that every pair of shoes had a soul, and he made it his life's mission to connect with them. Showman's shop, Saul's and Sink, was a magical place. The walls were lined with shoes of every kind, sneakers, stilettos, boots, and even the odd flipper. Each shoe was perched on its own little pedestal, with a tiny plaque bearing its name. There was Sneaky Pete, the mischievous running shoe, Tippy Toes, the ballet slipper with a sassy attitude, and Sir Clompsalot, the heavy-set work boot with a heart of gold. One day, a local woman named Mrs. Bumble brought in her husband's old, worn-out loafers. "Showman," she said, "these shoes have seen better days. Can you work your magic on them?" Showman took one look at the loafers and gasped. "Oh dear, these poor fellows are in desperate need of some TLC. But don't worry, Mrs. Bumble. I'll have them back on their feet in no time." He carefully placed the loafers on his workbench, dimmed the lights, and lit a single candle. Showman believed that shoes were shy and preferred low lighting for deep conversations. He began to speak softly to the loafers. "My dear friends," Showman whispered, "you've carried Mr. Bumble through thick and thin. But it's time to tell me your troubles. What ails you?" To the untrained ear, it might have seemed that nothing happened, but to Showman, the shoes were practically singing. "We're tired," the loafers groaned. "We've walked miles and miles, and we're worn out. We need a break." Showman nodded sympathetically. "I hear you. How about a little spa treatment? A nice polish, some new soles, and perhaps a bit of extra padding for comfort?" The loafers perked up. "Oh, that sounds heavenly." Showman went to work, humming a tune that only shoes could understand. He polished, stitched, and even gave the loafers a little massage. When he was done, they looked as good as new, maybe even better. Mrs. Bumble returned the next day, and Showman proudly presented the rejuvenated loafers. "Here you are, Mrs. Bumble. Ready to take on the world again." She was amazed. "Showman, you've done it again. These look fantastic." But just as Mrs. Bumble was about to leave, the loafers began to shuffle on their own. "Showman," they cried, "we're ready for adventure. We want to explore." Showman chuckled. Now, you must stay with Mr. Bumble. He needs you." The loafers sighed but reluctantly agreed. Mrs. Bumble walked out of the shop, her husband's shoes clicking happily along. As she left, Showman smiled and whispered, "Another pair of soles saved." And so, Showman continued his work, always listening, always caring, and always making sure that every shoe had its day. The town may have thought he was a bit odd, but they loved him all the same. After all, who wouldn't want a showman in their life?